Hey there, my name is AJ Pickett and I make videos about role-playing games, and lots of them. I upload twice a week with a live stream every weekend. You can also find me on Subscribestar, Patreon and Discord, Facebook and Twitter. Also, there's an option to join the channel as a member, and I welcome any questions you have in the comment section down below. If you like this video or this channel, I welcome you to subscribe to this channel and its very friendly community. Today, thanks to many requests inspired by the video on the plane of Elysium, we're going to investigate the lore of the celestial beings known as the Guardinals. I recommend watching the video on the plane of Elysium to get a better understanding of the outer planar realms that the Guardinals come from, but it's not required. It's just a very chill video with lots of lovely images. In a nutshell, Elysium is the plane of ultimate goodness, not tempered by law or chaos, which has the interesting side effect of making it very happy and peaceful, but going completely homicidal in regards to anything evil, as all evil is in stark polar opposition to everything and everyone within the four layers of Elysium. Guardinals are therefore exceptionally kind, peaceful, happy, helpful, and deeply good-natured beings who also have absolutely zero tolerance for evil and barely put up with any selfish behavior. So if your character is good, they're awesome. If your character is selfish, they are real jerks, and if your character is evil, the Guardinals are lethal. They are native to Elysium. It's unknown if they originated as petitioners or if they have always been a part of Elysium, and petitioners just have the option of becoming Guardinals. Perhaps being a Guardinal is more of a calling than it is a race exactly. I don't recall seeing any baby Guardinals. They tend to live in small communities and live a nomadic lifestyle, roaming the infinite, breathtaking landscape, living simply, only ever taking what they need from the land. When found outside of Elysium throughout the multiverse, they will always be on some kind of mission. They don't travel outside of Elysium for pleasure, obviously, because no location is more pleasurable than Elysium. Guardinals always refer to other locations as the multiverse as down, and returning to Elysium as heading back up. There is a good example of how this translates as a metaphor for the thinking of all Celestials. When faced with the massive army of invading Uruk-hai, the Rohan people in Lord of the Rings abandoned the vast but wide open plains of Rohan and headed to the fortress of Helm's Deep. Elysium is the vast wide open realm, and Celestia is the fortress of Helm's Deep. If it ever came down to the war to end all wars between the forces of good and evil in the outer planes, can you picture it? On dawn of the fifth day, the Archons and the Angels hear the thundering roars of Leonals, riding the backs of thunder beasts from the Beastlands, followed by the massive army of Guardinals, riding rainbow bridges to charge into the endless host of demons and whatnot. That would be awesome. Guardinals first appeared in 1995 when the card game named Blood Wars was published, featuring most of the known types of Guardinals as well as a few of the specific leadership of their different kinds. They also appeared that same year in 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Planescape Settings Monstrous Compendium Appendix Volume 2, where we got the first stats for 6 of the 7 known types. A few years later in 1999, the Guardinals were further detailed and presented as options for player character races in Warriors of Heaven, with further listings of some of the known named Guardinal leaders, which I will be talking about soon. This is not the last we saw of the playable Guardinal character options, and they appear as monsters in the 3rd edition Monster Manual in 2000 and the Manual of Planes in 2001, Monster Manual 2 in 2002, then of course Savage Species, published in 2003, which made pretty much any monster a playable character option. I truly, deeply love that book. The winged Avoral and the lion-like Leonal Guardinals got most of the attention as both example monsters and player character options, both appearing in 3.5 edition's Monster Manual in 2003, and other types including the Equinal, the Musteval and the Ursinal Guardinals appeared in the Book of Exalted Deeds, also published that year, which I reference heavily in this video. And now we have a name for the leadership of the Guardinals. They are known as the Celestial Paragons, more in tune with 3.5 edition's developments regarding high-level player characters. Finally, we saw the Avoral listed as a playable character race in the Planner Handbook published in 2004, and then, well, there's a big gap where they got completely skipped by 4th edition of the game, more or less. So, what are the types of Guardinal and what do they do? They do have a hierarchy among themselves, so I will present them from least to the greatest. It's a bit deceptive, as they may not be physically as impressive in combat, for example, but they are far better at infiltration or the arcane arts. But here is the ranking that we have for them. All Guardinals have the following traits in common. They can speak with any animal. No animal or beast will attack them willingly. They can lay hands on others and heal them the same way a paladin can. They are immune to lightning. Electricity just doesn't bother them at all. They are resistant, taking half damage and effects from cold, poison, acid, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing and slashing from non-magical attacks, and are immune to being turned to stone via petrification. They have 60-foot dark vision. They also have a range of natural spell-like abilities and commonly have additional spellcasting powers thanks to taking levels as various character classes. They are all native to the plains of Elysium but can be found anywhere in the multiverse, though usually this is thanks to their own travels. They keep the magical means of summoning them very, very restricted on the prime material plane. They are not servants, they are celestial authorities and enforcers. Mustevals are most often encountered appearing as something else, because they have the ability to alter their appearance and speak any other language as spell-like abilities. In their true form, they are described as mouse or ferret-like humanoids who only stand about 2 feet or 0.61 meters tall with an average weight of 30 pounds or 13.6 kilograms, which is on the heavy side because they are way stronger than they look. They have dense musculature and are high energy individuals, best described as twitchy. They rarely stand still and have highly tuned senses. Mustevals are challenge rating 2, but push the limits on what challenge rating is. So armor class of 16, 67 hit points, plus 6 to hit with attacks. They are weak on innate physical attacks. If pressed, they will bite for 1d10 plus 3 piercing damage. Yes, that is weak for a Guardinal. Instead, they use magic. The Musteval's innate spellcasting ability is Intelligence, a spell save DC of 14. The Musteval can innately cast the following spells, requiring no material components at will. Detect Evil and Good, Detect Magic, Disguise Self, Magic Missile, Protection from Good and Evil, or Evil and Good, and See Invisibility. They are also able to turn invisible once per day. All Mustevals are highly agile, fleet-footed, and have a climbing and burrowing speed. They also have advantage on perception wisdom checks that involve their very keen sense of hearing. Mustevals in combat, regardless of any class levels, will have an ability that is essentially the same as the rogue's uncanny dodge and evasion. So if they can see an attack coming, they can use their reaction to halve its damage if it hits them. Also, when taking dexterity saving throws to avoid full damage, instead of taking half damage, they avoid any damage at all. Believe it or not, that has no impact on their challenge rating. Mustevals are not the most common of the Guardinals, and by their very nature are one type you rarely see, but they have a big impact thanks to their ability to gather information and get that information to those who can act on it. They perhaps keep too low a profile though. They are the only Guardinal group that doesn't have a paragon who represents them in a leadership position, which they think is just an oversight that will be corrected soon enough. I'm sure many of them could easily take that role, but are just too unassuming and too hard at work protecting the multiverse to consider it. Evil beings identified as a threat by a Musteval may not even realize the danger they are in until a more powerful celestial suddenly appears to deal with them. Or the Musteval fires off one volley after another of pinpoint accurate magic missiles from different positions of concealment, constantly on the move and wearing down their target like a highly trained sniper. Cervidal are the most common Guardinals found in Elysium, almost always on the layer called Amoria. They are very peaceful folks who you might not expect to be the main battle force of the Guardinals until you see them in action and realize that their very chill attitude is in large part thanks to their absolute fearlessness and willingness to see any fight to the bitter end. They are quite capable of going toe-to-toe with the screaming hordes of the Abyss or the ranked and highly disciplined bearded devils of the Nine Hells. They stand on average about 5.5 feet tall and look like regal, noble versions of satyrs, with more robust horns, and they have hoof-like horn growing the backs of their hands, which, when the hand is clenched into a fist, makes for a very effective bludgeoning weapon. They're slim, muscular, and covered with short, dark red fur. In 5th edition, they pushed the very limits of challenge rating 3 creature with an armor class of 17, 90 hit points, 2 attacks per round, and an additional attack as a bonus action each round, similar to the monk character class, regardless of any class levels they may have. They are very fast on their feet with a movement speed of 50 feet per round. Also, their leaping distance is just over 20 feet from a standing position. Their kick and punch attacks are +7 to hit and count as a magical weapon, doing 2d4 +4 bludgeoning damage. Plus, they can strike with their horns, and these are actually their preferred weapon. They generally only lay into enemies with a slamming fist when they are outnumbered, which, come to think of it, they usually are. Anyway, the horns inflict 1d8 +4 bludgeoning damage, but they are capable of leaping through the air and slamming into a target head first, inflicting an additional 2d8 bludgeoning damage and knocking a creature prone if it fails a DC 14 strength saving throw. They do have to move at least 20 feet to do this though. Even leaping straight up and diving headfirst down onto a foe counts though. Oh, by the way, if you want all the stats for this video, you can become a patron and get access to all of my printed scripts. Plus, this video is equipped with closed captions, so you can read along and take notes as I talk. Not only are their horns tough, they are innately magical. At will, a Cervidal can touch them to another being and instantly negate all poisons and diseases affecting them. They can also touch their horns to an illusion to instantly dispel it, and most impressive of all, they can touch their horns to any summoned, conjured, or extraplanar creature and send them right back where they came from. I leave it up to you whether they get a saving throw or not, but this effect doesn't send creatures to a demiplane like the banishment spell, and they don't come back after a minute or so. They are either gone or not. So it only works on beings who are on a plane of existence they are not native to. Cervidals also have innate spell-like abilities. At will, they can cast Bless, Command, and Detect Poison. Once per day, they can also cast Hold Person, Magic Missile, and Suggestion, with a spell save based on their intelligence, which is DC 15. Cervidals are vegetarians, of course, but they never mention it. Their paragon and member of the Companions of Thalasside, leader of the Guardinals, is named Manath, the Horned Duke. As is typical, Manath is larger than all other Cervidals, standing 6 feet tall and is heavily muscled with more shaggy fur on all the shades of the autumn colours. Their horns are large and curved like a ram and have a mahogany brown, while his hooves and hand horns are glossy black. His face is wise with a wry smile that is quite endearing. He has only been a member of the Companions for a little while, replacing the previous paragon named Duke Rannoch some 20 years ago. As such, he feels he has much to learn from Thalasside and the other Companions. In turn, they feel uplifted by his fresh perspective, his keen wit, easy banter, and infectious sense of fun. Lupinal Guardinals are the werewolf-looking kind with silver grey fur, a wolf-like face, and lower legs on an otherwise very fit and athletic humanoid body. The werewolf impression doesn't hold up on closer proximities, as they have very intelligent eyes and move with a grace and poise fitting a celestial being. Again, most of the time the Lupinals are peaceful, but they are constantly vigilant against evil incursion in their realm, and tend to form into temporary packs that roam the layers of Elysium or go on hunting missions all across the multiverse. When they encounter evil, they are ferocious, striking from ambush in a coordinated attack using their pack tactics. Lupinals consider themselves the front line of warriors of Elysium. They are almost lawful in that they hold themselves ready for battle at any time and actively go looking for evil in the nearby plains of the Outlands, Bitopia, and the Beastlands. Lupinals are challenge rating 5 and quite formidable in combat. They can unleash a howl that causes all non-celestial creatures within 600 feet to make a DC 16 wisdom saving throw or be frightened for 4d6 rounds. If they fail by 5 or more, they are instead stunned, but they can make another saving throw on their next turn. Success ends the condition and they can't be affected again by that for 24 hours from that individual Lupinal. They use pack tactics, such as surrounding opponents, concentrating all their attacks on one target in a group to take it down first and aiding each other however they can. They attack by leaping from concealment and chase down their target. Their weapon of choice are their fangs. Their bite counts as a magical weapon. They are +8 to hit and inflict 2d8 +4 piercing damage. If they hit a target smaller than themselves, they can choose to grapple it. Escape DC is 16 and keep it restrained until it escapes or they release it. Or if the target is larger than them and moved on their last turn, the Lupinal can opt to trip the target. Dexterity saving throw is also 16. Failure will result in the target falling prone. Lupinals are as fast as Cervidals with a movement speed of 50 feet per round, and they work together to provide the pack tactics trait. So a Lupinal can have advantage on an attack roll against a creature if at least one of the Lupinal's allies is within 5 feet of the creature and the ally isn't incapacitated. Also, the ally doesn't have to be another Lupinal for that to work. Lupinals have a very keen sense of smell and hearing. They have an advantage on all wisdom perception checks that rely on hearing and smell, and when tracking a target using their sense of smell, they have advantage on wisdom survival checks as well. Their innate spell-like abilities rely on their intelligence and have a save DC of 16. At will they can cast Blink, Blur, Change Self, Darkness, and 3 times per day they can cast Cone of Cold, Cure Light Wounds, Etherealness, Fly, and Magic Missile. Oh yes, they also have the ability to deflect and even catch missile weapons shot at them in the same way a 3rd level monk can, regardless of any class levels they may have. The paragon of the Lupinals, Duke Karash, is the closest companion to Thaliseid, sharing the celestial lion's passion for the hunt as well as his love for the untamed wilderness. The two are nigh inseparable except when Thaliseid chooses to enter a populated area, at which time Karash usually opts to remain in the wild. Others mistake this for shyness, but that's not really the case. He is quite eloquent and has a love for children, a great sense of humour, but he just prefers to dwell in the wild. He even moves around on all fours quite often, which is indicative that he was originally from the Beastlands. But anyway, he's big, about 10 feet long on all fours, with neatly trimmed black fur and brilliant topaz eyes, with fangs the colour of pearls. His ability to remain out of sight, coupled with his willingness to let Thaliseid speak on his behalf in public, has earned Karash the moniker Thaliseid's Shadow, and the Lupinal Duke doesn't seem to mind. He has a shadow of his own, actually, a packmate called Ceradus, who always joins him, along with up to a dozen other Lupinals in a travelling and hunting pack. By the way, walking around on all fours, which is common to the Guardinals that come from the Beastlands, is considered low class, uncouth, by the celestial paragons of Elysium. Just a fun fact. Equinals are horse-like Guardinals. They're full of energy, good-natured, boisterous, extremely strong. They stand 8 feet tall and weigh in excess of 600 pounds of solid muscle. Their head and legs are horse-like. The rest of them is humanoid with a mane that runs down the head, down the back, and their hands, even more so than the Cervidals, are iron-hard with hoof-like horn growing around their fingers. So when curled into a fist, they are effectively a slamming weapon. They enthusiastically fight evil, preferring to stand hoof to toe and pound their targets to a pulp with their fists. Again, they are very fast and agile for their size, attacking with moves that are right out of the mixed martial arts playbook. They never back down from a fight, even when obviously outmatched. Equinals count as size category large creatures and have an ability to bellow, a supernatural whinny, once per short or long rest as a bonus action. It is a piercing shriek that affects all non-celestials in a 20-foot area around them. Targets must make a DC 16 Constitution saving throw or be deafened for 1d6 rounds. Those who fail the save by 5 or more are deafened and also stunned for 1d6 rounds. Making the saving throw avoids all effects but doesn't provide immunity to any subsequent whinnies. They also have spell-like abilities, charisma based. Their spell DC is 16. At will they can cast Aid, Command, Detect Evil and Good, Detect Magic, Dimension Door, Dispel Magic, Fog Cloud, Light, Protection from Evil and Good, Magic Missile, and See Invisibility. Once per day they can cast Slow and Wall of Stone. Also, the Equinals can lay on hands, healing as much per day as their own hit point total, which is around 150. They also have an armor class of 18, so tough fighters. In combat, Equinals disdain the use of weapons and wade into melee with their iron-hard fists. They can make 2 slam attacks plus 9 to hit, inflicting 2d10 plus 4 bludgeoning damage, and they have a special ability to unleash a flurry of blows, similar to that of a monk, except it recharges at the start of the turn if they roll a 6 on a 6-sided die. This allows them to give up any movement, bonus actions or reactions, and on their turn make 2 additional slam attacks. And to make it even more formidable, All their same attacks have a 10-foot reach and count as good aligned magic weapons. The fastest of the Guardinals, except the winged Avorals, the Equinals cover 60 feet of movement per turn, and they love to run in small groups across the endless, majestic landscapes of Moria in Elysium. The paragon leader of the Equinals is Vara, Duchess of the Fields. She stands 15 feet tall, and her long, neatly groomed mane is golden blonde. She is well aware that her presence is physically intimidating, and has an aloof, graceful air that tends to conceal her true nature from those who first meet her. In truth, she is a profoundly generous, emotive, and empathic spirit that privately weeps when confronted with any suffering that she can't personally do anything to salve or prevent. She loves all her fellow Equinals and is deeply committed to them and their protection of the plane of Elysium. When not spending time travelling with her fellow companions of Thalosseed, she dwells in an epic manse on a graceful hill rise overlooking fields of flowers, as she loves flowers and always appreciates gifts of bouquets of fresh flowers of any kind. She's almost always tended to by a devoted troop of willing servants, including a male half-elf bard with a small golden harp and a female elven sorcerer who loves to speak only in entertaining rhymes and riddles. She is the very personification of the elegant form and grace of all horses, and some would say the boundless heart of the five companions. Next we have the Avorals, winged Guardinals of the sky, the only Guardinals who can naturally fly. They are possessed of a deep wanderlust and patrol far and wide over the endless reaches of Moria, mostly, but are found on all the layers of Elysium to a lesser extent, even the thick canopy of the swamps of Eberron. Avorals have the bodies of tall, muscular men or women, but their arms are long, powerful wings, with a hand located at the midpoint, much like the Aarakocra used to be depicted, and their lower legs feature strong talons and feathery veins that act as a tail in flight. Their faces are more human than avian, but they have hair that seems like a feathery cowl around their heads, and their eyes are bright and golden. Avorals' chests are exceptionally deep and powerful, anchoring their wing muscles. Their bones are strong but hollow, so although they stand no less than 7 feet tall, they only weigh about 120 pounds or 54 kilograms. Though their 20-foot wingspan and sheer muscular power allows them to carry just over 300 pounds or 136 kilograms into the sky with them, and they use muscle, not body mass, to deliver wicked strikes with their taloned feet and wing claws at high speed, slicing into foes. When not in flight, they fold their wings, and at the midpoint, where their hands are situated, is around the same length as a humanoid arm would be, except without an elbow, so they appear to do everything at arm's length, which is a little weird, but it's not that inconvenient really. They suffer no penalties because of it. On the ground, if they must attack or defend themselves, they lash out with their hands, but if they are able to, they will always prefer to attack in the air, where they can make full use of their foot talons. Of course, all Guardinals may be carrying weapons, very fine weapons they've been practicing with for centuries, but I leave those details up to you. It's just too many variables to cover. They always have their physical attack options, so that's what I'm converting from old editions for you, mostly 3rd and 3.5 edition, and adjusting to the correct amounts for the challenge ratings in 5th edition. They are a challenge rating 9, so they are significantly more powerful than Equinals and have a plus 10 to hit. The wings inflict 2d8 plus 4 slashing damage, the foot talons inflict 2d10 plus 4 slashing damage, and if they hit, they can choose to grapple a target. Escape DC is 16, and due to their formidable strength, they can grapple a medium-sized target, even though they also count as medium-sized beings. They use both feet to grapple a target, but only need to hit with one of them to latch on with their talons. They can lift willing creatures aloft without harming them, of course. Get familiar with the rules for falling to a grisly death, as that is exactly what's going to happen to evil beings the Avorals swoop high into the sky with, not just dropping them, but power diving and releasing them like living missiles, which more often than not burst into sprays of gore on impact. Well, according to the rules, it counts as a fling attack. If a thrown target strikes a solid surface, the target takes 1d6 bludgeoning damage for every 10 feet it was thrown. If the target is thrown at another creature, that creature must make a DC 13 dexterity saving throw or take the same damage and be knocked prone. If you want a super easy way to factor in the Avoral diving out of the sky, just add up the distance from where it started the dive and where the victim hit the surface and double it when adding up the dice rolls. Carried victims are restrained though, so although they can attack the Avoral, they do so at disadvantage. Avorals are fast, they move at 40 feet per round on the ground and 90 feet per round in the air. That is their base speed, so they can climb into the air carrying 300 pounds at 90 feet per 6-second round. The calculations kind of suck for speed and creatures diving out of the air. It's fast, very fast, like 200 miles per hour or so. If they hit the ground at that speed, they go splat, so generally they don't do that. They can put on some spectacular displays of flying skill, just not in combat. It's too prone to failing disastrously to be practical. Dungeons & Dragons is also not great at working out how much more lethal a spear hurled from the sky would be. Unfortunately, so just get creative. Overall, spell-like abilities are charisma based with a save DC of 17. At will, they can cast Aid, Blur, Command, Detect Magic, Dimension Door, Dispel Magic, Gust of Wind, Hold Person, Light, Protection from Evil and Good, Magic Missile, and See Invisibility. 3 times per day, they can cast Lightning Bolt. As you might expect, an Avoral's visual acuity is virtually unmatched. It can see details on objects up to 10 miles away, and it is said that they are able to discern the colour of a creature's eyes at 200 paces, so they have advantage on any wisdom perception checks involving sight. They also have true seeing, which allows them to see right through illusions and such. One last ability is that they can create an aura of fear once per day in a 20-foot area around them, exactly like a fear spell. The paragon of the Avorals is Sathia, the Sky Duchess. She is the tallest of their kind, a lithe and beautiful woman. Avorals have much more human facial features, as I mentioned, than other Guardinals. Sathia has flecks of emerald green in her snow-white feathers. Her eyes are bright gold. Her claws and talons are also brilliant green, like emeralds as sharp as diamonds. She naturally attracts birds which happily flutter around her. She's the voice of the Avorals, and Sathia is also a patron and muse for gifted painters and sculptors. She possesses a sharp eye for detail and has created a number of masterful paintings and wood sculptures. Most of all, she just enjoys time spent with the companions and soaring the skies of Elysium. Ursinal Guardinals are the bear type. They are no less than 8 feet tall and weigh 700 pounds or more. They have thick fur that ranges from red to warm golds, browns, golden highlights. They also wear thick, comfortable robes. They have a deceptive roundness to them, which can be deceiving, as under all of that, they are solid muscle, able to tear enemies to shreds when roused to anger. Ursinals dislike combat and avoid physical confrontation as long as possible. They are as fierce once they enter melee as any dire bear, but they prefer to use their spell ability to break off combat before it gets started. Their fur is thick on most parts of their body, but thin on the torso and face, which also has a very kind expression, with those bear-like features of a pronounced muzzle and ears set quite high on the head. Ursinals are highly intelligent and wise. They are the scholars and philosophers of the Guardinals, serving as advisors to the Leonals and record keepers of Elysium. They enjoy sharing their knowledge, often at great length, with endless digressions, while munching on a seemingly inexhaustible supply of honeycakes, sweet berries and other delights they keep within the countless pockets and pouches of their voluminous robes. Not only are Ursinals challenge rating 10, they are also highly proficient wizards, the equivalent of 12th level in that class. They also have innate spell-like abilities that are based on charisma rather than intelligence. At will, they can cast Aid, Daylight, Sleep, Detect Evil and Good, Detect Magic, Detect Thoughts, Dimension Door, Dispel Magic, Hold Monster, Magic Circle, Magic Missile, Polymorph, See Invisibility, and Earthbind. 3 times per day, they can cast Heal and Greater Restoration. Once per day, they can cast Divine Word. They're able to lay on hands and heal other creatures up to their maximum hit points per day. They have an armor class of 18 and 225 hit points. They are the slowest of the Guardinals at only 30 feet per round. They attack with magic as a first option, but can make 2 attacks per round with their claws, which are plus 10 to hit and inflict 2d10 plus 8 points of slashing damage. They can choose to grapple any target they hit with a claw attack. The escape DC is 18, and while the medium-sized or smaller target is grappled, they will be restrained, plus the Ursinal gets a free damage roll with their claws each round on the grappled target, literally tearing them apart. I won't go into the details of their wizard class levels or the spell casting power at their disposal. Their spell selections can vary widely, and they carry quite a few spell scrolls just in case, hanging in golden tubes that clink like wind chimes as they amble around. The paragon of the Ursinals is the matriarch Berai, the Great Bear. She looks a lot like a massive polar bear. Her kind eyes shine like shards of blue ice. She stands 18 feet tall and wears immaculate robes of the finest quality. I mean, unbelievably luxurious. She just gets new robes quite often, gifts from her loving students and friends from across the multiverse. She treats the other Ursinals like they were her cherished children. Her great lodge, set in an incredibly tranquil area above a small lake nestled between 4 mountains in Aronia, is always open for them to come and stay with her like it was their own home. She enjoys the hot summers and the harsh winters of Aronia. During the hot season, she spends a lot of time teaching herbology and about the great flows of energy in nature and the importance of living within and protecting that balance and harmony. As the heavy snows cover the land and lock the lake under ice, she turns her teaching towards the mysteries of magic. Her lodge becomes a college of wizardry, a safe and isolated retreat where the Ursinals and very lucky visiting wizards of other species can study and learn magic under her careful supervision. She also keeps up a constant correspondence with all her Ursinals and many of the greatest wizards of the multiverse, taking great interests in their endeavours and exploits, concerned with the dangers they face down below in the multiverse, fighting the forces of evil. Finally, the greatest of the Guardinals, we have the mighty Leonals. I see a lot of you in my video on the Leonin of the Magic the Gathering multiverse mentioning the resemblance to the supervillain battle beast from the comic book and cartoon called Invincible. Well, the Leonal are the real deal, except they are good, not evil. Though to the forces of evil, they are quite terrifying. Leonals stand no less than 6 feet tall and are powerfully muscular, far more so than any human could be. They have short golden fur with a darker golden mane. Both males and females do. They are a challenge rating 12, and while encountering them traveling by themselves is not uncommon, they typically move in packs of 4 to 9. Keep that in mind as I describe what they can do, and prefer to fight as a highly coordinated team. They have an armor class of 19 and no less than 270 hit points, a movement speed of 60 feet per round, and a pounce that can see them cover 20 feet in a flash of fur and fangs to land and to start shredding their enemy with wicked retractable claws and a jaw full of fangs. They signal their attack with a tremendous supernatural roar that they can unleash 3 times per day that functions just like the 7th level Holy Word spell, except it is projected as a blasting 60-foot cone that inflicts an additional 2d6 thunder damage on top of the spell's other effects. The save for this and all their other spell-like abilities is charisma based and is a good difficulty class 19, so most lesser creatures just get killed instantly by this before the Leonal even gets near them. Their 2 claw attacks per round are plus 11 to hit and inflict 3d6 plus 6 slashing damage. However, once per combat encounter, if they are within 5 feet of an allied Leonin and are surrounded by enemies, they can both unleash a whirlwind of claws, where each creature within 5 feet of either Leonal must make a DC 19 dexterity saving throw, taking 8d10 slashing damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. They just get shredded. Also, to make them even more ridiculously gnarly in close combat, they radiate a supernatural protective aura that combines the effects of a Globe of Invulnerability spell and a Magic Circle spell, which only affects evil creatures. So any spell of 5th level or lower cast from outside the barrier can't affect creatures or objects within it, even if the spell is cast using a higher level spell slot. And such spells can target creatures and objects within that barrier, so be spent, but the spell has no effect on them. Similarly, the area within the barrier is excluded from areas affected by such spells. In addition, evil creatures can't willingly enter that 20-foot area by non-magical means, and if the creature tries to use teleportation or interplanar travel to do so, it must first succeed on a DC 19 charisma saving throw. While evil creatures are within the area of effect, they have disadvantage on attack rolls against any targets inside the area. The non-evil occupants of the area are also immune from being charmed, frightened, or possessed by any other being. Finally, the Leonal who is generating the aura can also cause it to prevent evil creatures from willingly leaving the area. So the same effect on magical transportation as well. As you can imagine, this is devastating in the battles with the forces of evil and rightfully feared across the multiverse. Leonals use their bite attack to grapple a target, keeping their hands free to rake the target into mincemeat. Just keep the difficulty class of any save at 19 and you should be fine. The spell-like abilities are charisma based. At will, they can cast Detect Thoughts, Fireball, yes, Fireball at will, Hold Monster, Polymorph, and Wall of Force. 3 times per day, they can cast Cure Critical Wounds and Greater Restoration. Once per day, they can cast Heal. They can also lay hands on beings to heal them, however they don't have true sight like their Avorals do. The paragon of the Leonals and leader of all Guardinals is Thalasside, the Celestial Lion, a mighty figure that looks like a poised 9-foot-tall lion-headed man with a muscular build. He has golden fur, a regal mane of golden hair, and dark penetrating eyes. He wears exquisite robes and absently strokes his chin whiskers with one claw as he regards you. Although proud of his accomplishments and those of his beloved companions, Thalasside does not allow pride or other emotions to interfere with his mission to protect and aid the residents of Elysium first and foremost. His love for the Blessed Fields has grown in the thousands of years he has served as the Celestial Lion. He takes great delight in its many natural wonders, travelling from one stunning location to another on regular tours of the 4 layers of Elysium. He does spend most of his time on Moria, often assuming the form of a celestial animal when roaming the wilderness alone. He doesn't have any permanent home, he just stays in the dwellings of others. Since he's incredibly charming and just super cool, nobody in their right mind has any problem with him staying with them as long as any length of time he desires. He's a king among the Guardinals, who nonetheless considers himself nothing more than a servant of the people. And that concludes our basic overview of the Guardinals. Of course, there are countless tales and legends of their activities across the plains and untold numbers of interesting details about the lives and times of individual Guardinals. They are all legendary heroes in one way or another. Coming up, I have more native creatures of the upper celestial planes and the realms of Elysium. In the meantime, please hit that like button if you made it this far. Subscribe if you like what I do. Check out my Subscribestar or Patreon links for all the full scripts for these videos. Buy some Teespring merchandise, wear your geek with pride. And as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.